When we look at the world today, it's so easy to get overwhelmed by the scale of the challenges we face. And we often think the answers have to be these huge, top down plans. But what if the most powerful and lasting solutions start small? What if real change begins with a quiet, spiritual process that empowers everyday people to build a better world, literally from the ground up? Today, we're going to explore that very idea, a framework for change that begins with you and me in our own communities. All right, so here's how we're going to walk through this together. First, we'll touch on why a different approach is so needed right now. Then, we'll look back at a specific challenge that really sparked this whole process. After that, we'll dive into this really unique way of learning, see how it translates directly into service, and finally, how all that service adds up to create a whole new culture in a community. I think we all feel it, don't we? We're living in this time of pretty intense global challenge. But the Baha'i teachings offer a different perspective. They see this moment not as some kind of final breakdown, but as a really difficult, often painful transition. It's like humanity is moving toward its collective maturity, a time that, despite the turmoil, actually holds incredible promise. And that brings us to the fundamental question of our time, really. How do we, ordinary people, actually help build a better world right in the middle of all this? The Baha'i writings suggest that our central task is to build a civilization that's not just materially prosperous, but spiritually prosperous too. And this gets to a really core insight. Material progress is, of course, absolutely vital. We need it. But it's only half of the equation. A worldview that's focused only on the material side of life, one that kind of ignores our moral and spiritual reality, well, it just falls short. It can't bring us lasting happiness, and as the writings suggest, can even lead to systems of oppression. So the Baha'i approach isn't about choosing one or the other. Should I work on myself or should I work on changing society? It's about what's called a dual transformation. The idea is that your own personal growth, your spiritual and intellectual journey, is completely intertwined with your efforts to improve the world around you. They fuel each other. You can't really have one without the other. Okay, so how did this idea actually become a concrete plan? To really get it, we need to look back at a pivotal moment in the Baha'i community's recent history, because it was a real-world challenge that led to the process we're talking about today. So back in the 1970s and 80s, the Baha'i faith was growing incredibly fast all over the globe. So many people were drawn to this beautiful vision of a unified world. But this incredible growth brought up a really big question. How do you help all these people from so many different backgrounds to actively work together to turn that vision into a living reality in their own neighborhoods? Now, the first instinct, which makes a lot of sense, was to create courses to help people learn more about the teachings. And those courses were really great. They enriched a lot of people spiritually. But what they found was that just having more knowledge didn't automatically lead to that widespread, collective service that builds a vibrant community. There was a missing piece, a bridge needed between belief and action. And it was that very observation, that learning, that led to something new in the mid-1990s. An entirely new kind of educational approach began to emerge, born directly from that real-world experience. So the Training Institute was born. But it's not a building or a campus. It's a system. Its main goal isn't to give out degrees. It's all about building capacity for service. In fact, the curriculum at its heart first started taking shape at what's known as the Ruhi Institute in Colombia, based on experiences in rural villages. The whole point was to create something that could help anyone, from any walk of life, develop the skills and spiritual insights to serve humanity. The way it works is actually beautifully simple. It's not your typical classroom. Instead, you have study circles, which are really just small groups of friends, neighbors, learning together. There's a tutor, but they're not a teacher in the traditional sense. They're a facilitator, just another participant who's maybe a little further along the path. And the curriculum itself isn't just abstract ideas. It's a series of courses all based on practical acts of service. And to give you a sense of the scale of this whole endeavor, in 2010, the Universal House of Justice, which is the international governing council of the Baha'i faith, wrote that through this system, the community now had the capacity to help thousands, nay millions, to study together with the clear goal of translating the teachings into reality. It's a quiet but massive undertaking. So what does it actually feel like to be a part of this? Well, it's not really seen as just taking a course you have to finish. It's more like setting out on a journey. And this is the central idea right here. The whole mindset shifts away from I need to complete this book to I am walking a path of service. Progress isn't measured by a final exam, but by your growing ability to contribute to the well-being of the people around you. Learning and action just become two sides of the same coin. The learning method itself is this really dynamic cycle. It works like this. You start with step 1, action. You go out and try an act of service. Then comes step 2, reflection, where you think about it. How did that go? Then step 3 is consultation with your group, sharing what you learned and asking questions. And all of that leads you to step 4, study, where you dive back into the Bahá'í writings for deeper insights, which of course inspires you to take new and better action. It's this beautiful, continuous loop. Now, the engine driving this whole cycle is what the writings call a twofold moral purpose. It's this powerful idea that each one of us has two fundamental responsibilities that go hand in hand. The first is to take charge of our own growth, spiritually and intellectually. The second is to contribute to the progress of society. You can't really separate them. They're best expressed together through service. So what do these acts of service actually look like? Well, they start with really accessible things anyone can do, like hosting a simple gathering for prayers and reflection in your home. Then, as you build your confidence and skills, you might learn to offer classes for the spiritual education of kids, or even facilitate a program for junior youth. You know, that crucial 12 to 15-year-old age group, helping them channel their amazing energy towards service. Even just learning how to have more meaningful, uplifting conversations is seen as a key capacity. Okay, so let's zoom out one last time and look at the big picture here. How does one person walking this path and then another and another start to create a real collective transformation? While as more and more people in a village or a neighborhood start walking this path, something really cool happens. What begins as just a few individual acts of service starts to weave together. It creates a consistent, vibrant pattern of community life. And that steady rhythm of service and worship can, over time, begin to change the entire culture of that community for the better. And success isn't just measured by counting activities. The community learns to ask itself much deeper questions, like, are we actually feeling a stronger sense of community? Is our unity getting stronger? Is our environment becoming free of gossip and conflict? And maybe most importantly, is this a place where people from every background feel truly welcome to come and join in? And in the end, it all connects back. Every devotional meeting, every children's class, every single act of service is seen as a humble but absolutely essential part of that grander vision. Each act is a small attempt to foster that dual transformation of ourselves and our society, and to contribute right where we live to building a global civilization founded on the principle of the oneness of humanity. This whole process, this path of service, it's an invitation. It's open to absolutely everyone, no matter what you believe or where you come from. And it leaves us with this really powerful question to think about in our own lives. What role can each of us play in that incredible, interconnected process of bettering ourselves and bettering our world? If this explainer was helpful to you, we'd love for you to subscribe. That way, you'll be alerted when we post new explainers exploring how spiritual principles are being put into action to address the challenges of our time. Thank you so much for joining us.